welcome to Digest of All Conversations. Today's explainer dives into an absolutely fascinating medical detective story, one that uncovers a hidden biochemical reason behind our modern sleep crisis. We're looking at the clinical findings of neurologist Dr. Stasha Gominak, who stumbled onto a connection that challenges pretty much everything we've been told about why we can't sleep.
Okay, so let's tackle this massive question right out of the gate. Because despite trying everything, from white noise machines to blackout curtains, millions of people are finding that their brains simply cannot stay asleep. We are constantly told that if we just fix our sleep hygiene, everything's going to be fine. But what Dr. Gominak found in her neurology practice was that her patients were already doing everything right. They were tracking their sleep, they had cold, perfectly dark rooms, and yet their sleep studies were horrifying. Their brains were literally forgetting how to enter the deep, restorative phases of sleep.
Dr. Gominak's clinical hypothesis traces the root of this whole mystery back to a very specific shift in the 1980s, when we permanently moved our lives indoors. Just think about it for a second. Air conditioning became standard in homes and offices. Personal computers kept us glued to our desks, and medical advice shifted strongly towards slathering on sunscreen every single time we stepped outside. We stopped living like day hunters and started living in perfectly climate-controlled, sunless boxes. We essentially became indoor houseplants, and suddenly a whole host of invisible health issues just began to spike.
Now, we almost always treat sleep as just a behavioral issue, but her findings suggest we really need to be looking at the biochemical drivers running our bodies instead of just tweaking our bedroom environment. Standard behavioral fixes act as if sleep is just a habit you need to master. But as Dr. Gominak's research reveals, our biology is driven by raw chemical materials. If you are missing the fundamental neurotransmitters and hormones required to flip the actual switches in your brainstem, there is no amount of white noise that's going to force your brain into deep sleep.
To really grasp how widespread this is, let's look at two totally different patients who both suffered from the exact same mysterious lack of deep sleep. First, you have Meline. She was 100 pounds overweight, suffering from severe daily headaches, taking 9 different prescription drugs, and dealing with this intense burning pain in her legs. Then you have Natalie, who is the complete opposite on paper, a tall, statuesque triathlete, incredibly fit, but suddenly dealing with severe postpartum depression and daily headaches after having her son. It's a stark contrast, right? Yet their brainwaves looked terrifyingly similar at night.
Shockingly, Dr. Gominak actually encountered patients as young as 28 suffering from strokes, a condition we usually associate with old age, but here it was, entirely linked to this profound lack of restorative sleep. This isn't just about feeling a little groggy the next morning. When the brainstem doesn't cycle through the proper phases of deep and REM sleep, the physical toll on the body is catastrophic. If your body isn't repairing itself at night, you start seeing the diseases of a 75-year-old showing up in people who haven't even hit 30 yet.
So the first major clue in our detective story means we have to completely rethink vitamin D. We have to stop looking at it as just a vitamin and recognize it as a crucial hormone that actually paralyzes us so we can safely enter REM sleep. A massive mistake was made back in the 1980s when we classified it merely as a bone vitamin. It's actually a master hormone that our skin makes by absorbing UVB energy directly from the sun. And amazingly, there are specific receptors for it right on the brainstem. That's the exact area that controls our sleep-wake cycles and paralyzes our muscles during dreams, so we don't accidentally act them out. When this hormone is actually doing its job right, it helps produce acetylcholine, which plunges us into deep sleep so our brain can essentially run its nightly washing and repair cycle. I like to think of this process like little cleaner fish washing a whale. During deep sleep, your glymphatic system opens wide up to wash away all the toxic buildup from the day. But to kick off that process, your brainstem needs acetylcholine, and it turns out vitamin D is the required growth factor that triggers the production of that exact chemical.
This concept perfectly captures the stakes of the situation. Because if we don't get that paralyzed deep sleep, the daily damage just builds and builds, leading to a massive cascade of chronic diseases. Our bodies are essentially these brilliant, self-healing machines, but they are completely 100% reliant on this nightly downtime. Without the right hormone levels, the brain keeps aborting its attempts to enter deep sleep, basically breaking back into light sleep every 15 minutes. It leaves the patient exhausted and physically damaged. If you constantly wake up feeling like you haven't slept a wink, this aborted cycle might be exactly what's happening to you.
But wait, here is the crazy twist in this story. Giving Meline and Natalie vitamin D, it worked. Well, at first. But after a while, they developed mysterious new pains. For the first 2 years of her clinical trials, Dr. Gominak thought she had found the magic bullet. Malign's headaches vanished. Natalie felt amazing. But then, patients started coming back to the clinic complaining of severe joint aches, terrible burning sensations in their hands and feet, and extreme agitation.
Which brings us to a really crucial question for this explainer. Why on earth would fixing a sleep hormone deficiency suddenly cause issues that look exactly like an autoimmune disease? Dr. Gomanak was terrified. She thought she had inadvertently harmed her patients. But then she realized that by artificially driving up their vitamin D levels, she had actually triggered a secondary deficiency. The body was suddenly awake, repairing itself like crazy every night, but because of that, it was rapidly running out of other essential raw materials.
Dr. Gomanak discovered that these terrifying new symptoms were a perfect match for a really obscure deficiency in vitamin B5, also known as pantothenic acid. She dug deep into old medical literature from the 1950s that perfectly described exactly what her patients were experiencing. When you block vitamin B5, humans get insomnia, their gait changes, they get severe gastrointestinal distress, and they experience exactly that agonizing burning pain in their extremities.
So what happened was a massive domino effect. By adding vitamin D, the body's repair engines literally went into overdrive, completely draining its hidden reserves of B vitamins in the process. It's kind of like hiring a massive crew of construction workers to renovate your house, but you totally forgot to buy the lumber and the bricks. The vitamin D was the foreman yelling at the workers to build, but without the B vitamins, the actual building blocks, the entire system started to break down in a brand new way. To build a complete picture of this, we really have to understand how vitamin D and B vitamins interact, because you absolutely need both for this biological machinery to work. Vitamin D sits at the very top as the initiator, the master hormone. It regulates the brainstem and tells the body, hey, it's time to rest and repair. But the 8 essential B vitamins, they are the ground-level builders. They manage cortisol, they fuel cellular energy, and they are deeply intertwined with how we manage inflammation and pain throughout the body. And that breakthrough led to a totally radical realization. We need to start thinking about our gut microbiome as an internal B vitamin factory. Wait, B vitamins don't just come from the food we eat? It turns out, no. All 8 essential B vitamins were originally identified by scientists as bacterial growth factors. Our normal, healthy gut bacteria are actually supposed to manufacture a constant river of these vitamins for us, right inside our intestines.
The science shows this incredible bidirectional loop. Humans are meant to supply vitamin D from the sun to our gut bacteria, and in exchange, they manufacture the B vitamins we require for sleep. It is a stunning millions of years old symbiotic relationship. When we moved indoors and our vitamin D dropped, our gut bugs essentially starved to death. Without that specific growth factor, the good bacteria died off. Our microbiome collapsed, and our internal B vitamin factory was shut down cold, leaving our brains starved of the chemicals they need to sleep. So how do we manually reboot this broken system? Dr. Gomanak formulated a structured clinical protocol starting with vitamin D, followed by a temporary jumpstart of B vitamins. Because the factory is broken, you can't just take vitamin D alone. You have to temporarily supply a B complex, specifically B50, to act as the growth factors that jumpstart the bacterial factory. But here is the trick, and it's super important. You only do it for 3 months. Just enough to get the microbiome to grow back and take over the job itself.
And following this protocol, the results were incredible. Both Malene and Natalie shed their chronic pain and neurological symptoms entirely. Once that internal B vitamin factory was finally back online, the transformation was just staggering. Malene stopped 3 different pain medications and was finally able to return to work. Natalie's high resting heart rate dropped, her postpartum depression cleared up entirely, and she went right back to being a competitive triathlete. Their bodies finally had the biochemical tools they needed to fix themselves.
Now, if you're thinking, I don't want to rely on supplements forever, Dr. Gomanak notes that you can actually achieve this naturally by fundamentally changing how you interact with the outdoors and your food. She points out that animals in the wild aren't taking pills, right? By spending significant time outdoors, your skin naturally produces sulfated vitamin D. And by eating a diet rich in fermented foods, things like kimchi, sauerkraut, and kefir, you are directly introducing vast communities of microbes and the growth factors they need right into your gut.
When you compare the synthetic fix to our evolutionary roots, things get really clear. Eating fermented foods directly feeds that bacterial factory, while real sunlight provides unique infrared energy that a pill literally cannot replicate. A vitamin D pill does not give you the near-infrared radiation from the sun that literally charges your cell mitochondria. So while the supplement protocol is an incredible temporary fix for severe sleep disorders, the ultimate goal is to return to the environmental inputs our biology has expected for hundreds of thousands of years.
And this brings us to a seriously empowering realization from all this clinical data. Your body is a brilliant, self-healing machine if you just give it the correct biochemical raw materials. You are not fundamentally broken. Whether it's an inability to sleep, a tough struggle with weight, or unexplained daily pain, the clinical data strongly suggests that these are often warning sirens of a hidden deficiency state. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder about your own daily habits. Is your perfectly climate-controlled, entirely indoor lifestyle silently at war with your own biology? It just might be time to step outside. See you on the next episode of Digest of All Conversations.